Welcome to the deep dive. Ever felt like the official SAT study guide is, maybe a bit overwhelming?
Definitely dense.
Yeah, dense.
Yeah.
Well, today we're taking you on, let's call it the ultimate shortcut. We're diving deep into Chapter 20, the sample math questions. Our goal, to pull back the curtain, really show you the core of the SAT math test. Forget the info overload. We're getting straight to the essentials.
That's right.
You'll get surprising facts, practical advice, stuff you won't get just by, skimming.
Exactly. And chapter 20 is, well, it's so important because it really does give you a snapshot of the whole SAT math experience.
Both parts. Calculator and no calculator.
Both parts, yep. It's
Yeah.
a preview. So our mission today is to help you understand not just what's coming, but why it's structured this way.
And how to tackle it.
And how to tackle it. We're distilling those key strategies, those insights, so you walk away feeling hopefully a lot more confident.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Before we even get into the X's and Y's, Chapter 20 lays out some really crucial, overarching strategies.
Yeah, for the whole math test.
Right. Things you absolutely need to kind of bake into your approach. These aren't just tips, right? They're more like foundational habits.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating, I think, is how much focus there is on thinking about how you're taking the test. Metacognition.
Right, not just the math itself.
Exactly. It's not just what math you know, but how you approach it all. First up, time management. It's huge.
Yeah.
You just can't afford to get bogged down on one single question. The clock is always ticking.
So what's the timing look like, roughly?
Well, for the no calculator part, you're looking at about a minute and 15 seconds per question on average.
Okay, not a lot.
Not a lot. And for the calculator part, maybe a bit more, like a minute and 26 seconds.
Still tight.
Still tight. So the key advice, really, is skip the hard ones. If it's stumping you, mark it, move on, come back later.
Don't let one question sink the ship.
Precisely. Don't let it derail that whole section.
That skip and return idea makes so much sense. I remember getting stuck. Just
Yeah.
throws off your whole rhythm.
It does.
It's like they're testing your cool under pressure, not just math.
Sort of, yeah. And once you skip, how do you manage the rest? Well, there's a strategy there, too.
Oh, yeah.
Questions generally get harder as you go along. They're ordered by difficulty, more or less, within each group.
Okay. So easier ones tend to be first.
Usually, yes. So if you're hitting a wall early, that's a good sign to just, jump ahead. And definitely mark the ones you skip in your test booklet.
Not just on the answer sheet.
In the booklet itself. So you can find them again fast. It sounds simple, but it saves precious seconds, keeps your head clear.
Okay, practical. And what about the classic advice? Read carefully. What does that really mean for SAT math? Any specific traps?
It means scrutinizing every single word, especially things like units or keywords like not or least or greatest.
Oh, yeah. Forgetting units or misreading not. Disaster.
Total disaster. Underline the key info.
Yeah.
Really make sure you understand exactly what they're asking for. And visualize. If there's a graph or a diagram, mark it up. Put the information right onto the picture. It helps make it concrete.
Okay.
And maybe the most basic but critical, keep checking your answer sheet bubbles. Make sure you're on the right row.
Oh, man, the bubbling errors. The stuff of nightmares.
Happens more than you'd think under pressure.
Okay, what about the calculator? Is it always helpful, or can it actually slow you down sometimes?
That's a really good question. And the guide is clear. No, it's not always an advantage.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes doing it in your head or just estimating is way faster. Plugging every little thing in can actually eat up time.
So it's a tool, use it wisely.
Exactly. And always ask yourself, does this answer seem reasonable? Use common sense to catch potential calculator typos or, calculation errors.
Right, the sanity check.
A sanity check. It's a powerful tool, the calculator, but it's not a substitute for actually understanding the math.
And the big one. Guessing. Policies change, test to test. What's the rule for the SAT? This feels like it could change everything.
Okay, this is crucial. Game changer level crucial. There is absolutely no penalty for guessing on the SAT.
None, seriously.
Zero penalty. So
None.
think about it. Every blank answer is a guaranteed 0 points for that question.
Right.
But even a wild guess, a 1 in 4 shot on multiple choice, you're playing the odds. It's always better than leaving it blank.
Wow. So you should answer every single question.
Every single one. Try to eliminate choices you know are wrong first, obviously. Make an educated guess if you can. But never, ever leave a bubble blank on that answer sheet.
That's not guessing. That's strategic probability management. Like you said, 3 points.
Basically, yes. Don't leave free points on the table.
Powerful stuff. Okay, let's peel back the next layer, the section that makes palms sweat. Math test. No calculator. How much does this really force you back to basics?
It really does. It strips away that digital safety net. The no calculator section, it's 25 minutes long, 20 questions. And yep, calculator is strictly forbidden.
Right there in the name.
Right. It's designed to test your raw number sense, your algebraic fluency, your conceptual grasp, directly.
Without the computational crutch.
Exactly. And some important notes apply to both sections, actually. Things like variables are real numbers unless they say otherwise.
Standard math assumptions.
Pretty much. Figures are drawn to scale unless they specifically tell you figure not drawn to scale.
Ah, gotta watch for that disclaimer.
You do. Figures lie in a plane. Function domains are usually all real numbers where the function makes sense. It's context for every problem.
Okay. And there's that reference sheet you mentioned that's available for both sections?
Yes, absolutely. Same reference sheet for both. Think of it as your little geometry cheat sheet.
What's on it again?
The essentials: circle area, a Porter, circumference, C2R, rectangle area, LW, triangle area, half base times height.
The classics.
The classics, plus Pythagorean theorem, A plus BCC, and those special right triangles, the 30, 60, 90, and the 45, 45, 90.
Always useful.
Definitely. And reminders about degrees in a circle, 360, radians in a circle, 2, and degrees in a triangle, 180.
Okay, so it's there. But the key is knowing it well enough you don't waste time looking it up, right?
Exactly. You need to know how and when to apply those formulas almost instantly. Time is too tight to be flipping back and forth figuring out the Pythagorean theorem.
Right. So this no calculator environment, testing foundational knowledge, what does that look like in terms of questions? Can you give us a couple examples from the chapter?
Sure. So under Heart of Algebra, you might get a question about a graph. Maybe they show you a line, then ask about the slope, if that line is, say, shifted up or down.
Right.
It forces you to think about what slope means conceptually, that it doesn't change with vertical shifts, not just how to calculate it from 2 points on the new line.
So it's testing the concept, not just the formula. Sneaky. They want to see if you get the why.
That's the idea. Another Heart of Algebra example might give you an equation modeling, say, students per classroom, and ask you to interpret the slope in that real-world context.
Translating math into meaning.
Exactly. Then you move into Passport to Advanced Math. Here, you might see complex numbers, those involving I.
Like multiplying binomials with I in them.
Precisely. Like 14 2i times 7 plus 12i. You got to know how to handle that distributive property and the fact that I is madish 1.
Right. Extending algebra rules.
Yep. Or another question in this area might give you a quadratic equation, maybe in factored form, and ask you to identify the vertex of the parabola it represents.
So seeing the structure in the equation.
Yeah.
Not just blindly calculating.
Exactly. Recognizing the architecture, like you said earlier, that's key for advanced math.
Okay.
And then under additional topics in math, you might get trigonometry, maybe something involving radian measure or asking about trig identities.
Like sin 2x.
Yeah, something like that. Knowing it equals cos.
Uh-huh.
These examples really show how this section probes those core skills, your fluency, without a calculator to fall back on.
Makes sense. It's about the fundamentals. Okay, now let's switch gears. The section where you do get your calculator back, but as you said, it's a tool, not a magic wand.
Definitely not a magic wand. That's a critical distinction. The math test calculator section is much longer. You get 55 minutes for 38 questions.
More time per question, slightly.
Slightly, yeah. And yes, calculator IS permitted, but all those general notes variables, figures usually to scale, domains, they still apply.
And the same reference sheet, too.
Same reference sheet is provided again, yep. The key here is just knowing when it actually helps to use the calculator and when it's faster or better to just think.
So even with the calculator, fundamentals still matter. What kinds of questions show up here? How does the calculator change things, if at all?
Well, let's take a Heart of Algebra problem. Maybe you need to set up an inequality based on a real-world scenario, like recommended daily calcium intake.
Yep.
The calculator won't tell you how to set up the inequality, that's your algebra skill, but it might help you quickly calculate some percentages or values needed within that setup.
Gotcha. Helps with the number crunching part.
Right. Then, for problem solving and data analysis, maybe you get results from a survey and need to understand the margin of error.
Statistics.
Exactly. The calculator can handle the arithmetic, maybe calculating ranges based on the margin of error, but you need to understand what margin of error actually means.
Which is super relevant real-world data stuff.
Totally. Or a Passport to Advanced Math question might ask you to find the right exponential equation to model something like population growth.
Okay.
You might use the calculator to test values, see if a function fits the pattern, but choosing the correct form of the exponential model. That's conceptual understanding.
Right. The modeling part is key.
And very common in problem solving and data analysis again, scatter plots. You'll likely see questions asking you to use a line of best fit to make a prediction.
Reading graphs, interpreting trends.
Exactly. Reading graphs, dealing with decimals accurately. And here, those official tips from satpractice.org mentioned in the guide are really gold. Like, pay super close attention to the axis labels and the units on graphs.
It's crucial detail.
And be aware that answer choices can be really close together sometimes, so you need to read the graph carefully, not just eyeball it.
No sloppy estimating.
No sloppy estimating. And remember that big one. Even with a calculator, geometry figures might not be drawn to scale. Always trust the numbers and the formulas, not just how it looks.
Good reminder. Okay, so we've seen the sections, the strategies. What's the big picture? The guide seems to group everything into 4 main content areas, right?
It does, yeah. And understanding these categories helps you see the overall structure of the test, maybe where you need to focus your prep.
Okay, lay them out for us.
First up is Heart of Algebra. This is basically all about linear stuff.
Lines, basically.
Lines, linear equations, linear inequalities, systems of those equations or inequalities, and really understanding linear functions and how they behave.
The absolute bedrock of algebra. Shows up everywhere.
Everywhere. So problems like setting up an inequality for a real-world budget, interpreting what the slope means in a cost model, solving for where 2 lines intersect. Foundational stuff.
Got it. What's next?
Next is Passport to Advanced Math. This is where things get, well, more advanced. It moves beyond just lines.
Okay.
Think quadratic equations, parabolas, other nonlinear functions, working with exponents, radicals, polynomials, and those complex numbers involving I.
So curves, more complex expressions, imaginary numbers. This is where algebra gets more abstract.
It is, and it requires a solid conceptual grasp. Questions here might involve factoring tricky polynomials, finding the vertex of a parabola, simplifying expressions with like fractional exponents, or understanding exponential growth.
Seeing the structure again.
Seeing the structure, manipulating more complex forms. That's the core idea.
Okay, number 3.
Third is problem solving and data analysis. This is all about quantitative reasoning and context.
Like statistics and real-world numbers.
Exactly. Ratios, proportions, percentages, basic statistics, mean, median, maybe margin of error. Interpreting data from tables and graphs. Probability.
Sounds very practical, very applied.
It really is. This is where you see questions about evaluating the average for a population based on a sample, analyzing data to see if you can claim cause and effect.
Or usually why you can't claim it.
Often, yes. Understanding correlation versus causation. And definitely using lines of best fit on scatter plots to make predictions. It's about making sense of data.
Okay, makes sense. And the last one.
Finally, additional topics in math. This is kind of the catch-all for important stuff that doesn't neatly fit elsewhere.
Geometry.
Geometry is a big part of it, yes. Area, volume, angles, properties of triangles and circles, but also trigonometry, including radian measure and trig functions like sine and cosine.
So shapes, angles, and trig functions.
Precisely. You might get questions on radian conversions, trig identities, properties of chords in a circle, or maybe some spatial reasoning using similar triangles. These 4 areas together cover the whole spectrum of math on the SAT.
Wow. Okay. So drilling down into Chapter 20 really does give you, like, a blueprint for the whole math test.
It really does.
We've covered the overarching strategies: time, guessing, reading carefully. We've looked at the no calculator versus the calculator sections, specific question types.
The 4 content areas.
Right. Heart of Algebra, Passport to Advanced Math, problem solving and data analysis, additional topics. It feels pretty comprehensive. Distilled, but comprehensive.
I think so. And, you know, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's worth thinking about something.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about test strategies, math concepts, but these skills, right? Careful reading, managing your time, thinking analytically, even making strategic guesses.
Not just for the SAT.
Exactly. These are fundamental skills for life. Navigating a complex problem at work, understanding data in the news, making informed decisions. It all comes back to this kind of critical thinking and problem solving.
So the SAT is kind of practice for real life.
In a way, yeah. It's a training ground for applying these analytical skills under pressure. How does mastering this kind of methodical approach help you tackle challenges beyond the test? That's something to think about.
That's a really powerful thought to end on. Okay, well, I think we can confidently say we've covered the key skills, strategies, question types, examples, and all those official tips from Chapter 20.
We hit all the main points.
We did. So thank you for being part of this deep dive with us today. We really hope this breakdown helps you feel more informed, more prepared, and ready to tackle those SAT math challenges.